KayFabe Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rampa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what is going on? This is episode 64 of the KayFabe Smark Podcast. You are tuning in on August 5th for the live video version here on YouTube, August 6th for our audio listeners. Checking out the podcast, the KayFabe Smark, coming at you. Check us out on all social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that fun stuff. We're going to get in and talk about AEW, and we're going to talk about their Welcome Home, Going Home, Coming Home show that they just had last night, Wednesday night. We're going to break that down. First, before we get into all that, we're going to talk to Mr. Eric Todd and see what's going on in his world. Eric, what is happening?
You know, same old. Got some white people problems, Brian.
Uh-oh.
My AirPod Pros, unfortunately, they were made before October 2020. They started crackling. Apple did a recall. I had to take them to Best Buy to get exchanged out. Best Buy's got to wait for new AirPods to get delivered. So I'm stuck with these $40 bootleg Amazon AirPods. I don't know what I'm going to do, Brian.
Oh,
I just can't handle it.
I hope you make it through this tragic time.
This is a very tragic time in my life.
I hope you make it through safely and cleanly, and everybody is happy and healthy at the end of this. Our prayers be with you.
Please extend all your prayers you can. I'm going to start a GoFundMe page. Time, and may God be with you all.
Well, other than that, how's the world of professional wrestling going for this week? We just checked in on Sunday, so we hadn't had a lot of time to pass by. But was any big news things happen in the last couple days?
There has been some news going on. If you want to flip that ticker, I can get a couple stories out there for you.
Uh-oh, we got the ticker. It's official. We've got news. It's news time. This is the KayFabe Smark. This is the news. We're going to see what Eric has in store for us today.
All right, so one of the lower profile releases from WWE was an executive named Canyon Seaman. I don't know if you heard about that, Brian.
No.
They let the semen go. And a lot of people had to dry their eyes over that one. But turns out Mr. Seaman was released because he done fucked up. He done dropped the ball on Adam Cole. It has been kind of speculated around that Adam Cole's official contract, is officially up, and he just signed a contract to get through SummerSlam, and then it's up in the air from there. But apparently, Mr. Seaman here dropped the ball, didn't get Adam Cole re-signed, so they went ahead and let his ass go.
They said, you didn't get him a contract, so we're negating your contract. See you later, stupid.
There you go.
And then also,
I mean, WWE's let go of some big names, but I don't think they really want to let Adam Cole Bebe go because they know exactly where he's going to go with his fiance or wife or whatever the hell they are, Britt Baker. That's a no-brainer right there.
Yeah, fiance, wife, girlfriend, Britt Baker, former. I'm going to say they're former Bullet Club members with Cody and the Young Bucks. I'm going to assume that they're still friends. So there's a lot of things that are possible with that. So, yeah, you definitely don't want to lose Adam Cole. I don't want him to leave, though, either. It's not like let him go so he can jump to AEW. I don't think that's where he needs to be. But, I think he'll be great in continuing NXT. But contracts, we'll see. Money talks. Suckers walk.
That's right. I would hate to see him leave NXT. NXT is getting kind of boring, and I love Adam Cole. Him and Finn Balor are my two favorite things about NXT. So one of them dipping out the gates, not really what I want to see. And AEW is picking up so much talent right now. I would fear that Adam Cole would kind of get lost in the sauce over there.
100%. The other contract I hear rumors of that I heard a rumor of that is expiring in the same time frame as Adam Cole's is Pete Dunne's. Oh, the old finger. You were ready for that one.
The joint manipulator himself, apparently his contract is in the same boat as Adam Cole's. Either it's expired or it's about to expire, but that's just another one WWE's got to figure out. Do they want Pete Dunne, who's trimmed up a little bit, toned up, has been working on his finesse in the ring, and Pete Dunne's became a real just a straight killer in NXT there. Yeah. So they definitely need to find a way to hold on to him.
Yeah, otherwise, I don't know if he's an AEW future prospect, but at least he's going to probably swing back over to the UK and, run roughshod around there for a while. So he'll be a hot commodity if he's a free agent.
Right, definitely. So lots of places for Pete Dunne to go. If Tony Khan don't want him, there's a million other places that do. I'm sure he would be fantastic in Japan also.
Yes.
A high-profile release from WWE. This happened right after we aired our episode on Sunday night. Ric Flair was released from WWE after he had a disagreement with Vince over Charlotte's booking. Apparently, rumor and innuendo is that Ric Flair texted Vince, told him he hated the way Charlotte was being booked, told him to fix it or he was out. And lo and behold, WWE released the following statement. We have come to terms on the release of Ric Flair as of today, August 3rd, 2021.
I mean, what was he doing? Was he just under contract and not go anywhere else? Is that what it essentially was? Like hey, we don't really offer retirement, so we'll give you a contract to do nothing type thing? I mean, and you might get called. We might need you for a Raw or a SmackDown. Maybe you could pop in at a house show. Maybe you do an autograph signing at a bar opening. Is it something like that? Because he's not doing anything on a full-time basis on TV.
I just think that they're really bad at calling audibles. So Ric Flair was involved heavily in that Charlotte Flair-Lacey Evans thing. Lacey Evans went and got knocked up and screwed up that whole storyline. Rick hated that storyline anyway. But after that fell apart, they just had nothing else for Ric Flair. So, yeah, he was just chilling. And so he had nothing to lose. He wasn't doing anything anyway. He must be okay on the funds, and he knows that anywhere he wants to go is going to load up a briefcase full of cash. So I don't know. We'll see what's going on with Ric Flair.
I did see a Twitter statement or a release from Rick on him being released. He states, no hard feelings with the WWE. I'm paraphrasing. I didn't quote it down. No hard feelings with WWE. They've put me in the financial place that I am. I love and respect them. Wish them nothing but the best. It was just a kiss-ass comment back. Everybody playing nice. Because, you're going to have your disagreements, but I don't think he would never go back. He doesn't want to go in there and put his foot in his mouth. Because they can write some checks in case Ricky gets low on the funds.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he ends up back in WWE sometime. But the day that happened, we released a TikTok video to kind of try and break the news, and I speculated on whether he could go to AEW, reunite with Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson to have 3/4 of the Four Horsemen back together. But as time went on, I was kind of like, what would they do? Just 3 senior citizens that used to be in a group together. It's pretty much just good for one night of nostalgia, and then that's it. What can you do with that storyline?
Nothing. I think you could do one night of nostalgia in North Carolina, Horseman country, and they could bring J.J. Dillon back. He was already there one time, so they could get J.J. in there. Then you got Tully, Arn, Rick, and then you could really just spin the wheel and pick any fourth horseman that was in there throughout the years and grab anybody. Wheel Lex Luger in and call it a day.
Mongo McMichael. I think I'd like to see Lex Luger, though. So Spaghetti Arms himself. Some sad news. We had a couple of passings First one was Assassin number 1, Joey Hamilton. He was 82 years old. He was the Assassins were a huge name in tag team wrestling way back in the day before even yours and my time. But so the younger fans won't really remember Assassin number 1. But he was a big name back in the day. Worked for WCW as a booker and also worked at their power plant. And also his son, Nick Patrick, was a referee for Georgia Championship Wrestling and WCW and WWE.
And the NWO. He was the NWO's referee, Nick Patrick. Come on.
That's right. So, yeah, Assassin number 1 had his fingers all up in the wrestling business. So, yeah, he was 82, lived longer than most wrestlers that we have to spread this news about. But, yeah, RIP to Jody Hamilton, Assassin number 1.
I just remember the Assassin's mask and the way that it came down and it pushed out their nose, and his nose was always like you said, he was before our time in wrestling, but I watched a lot of WCW, so they had him in there a lot, and he would be a special enforcer, or he'd be on the outside, or he was at ringside, and I just remember him being around, and that nose was huge in the mask, and anyways, that's my memory of Jody Hamilton, the assassin with his big giant nose protruding out of his mask.
Oh, yeah, smashing it down like the Michael Jackson bell pepper, and bell pepper special, peppers and onions. We got a somewhat of an injury update on Cash Wheeler. If you guys remember on the last episode of Dynamite, he cut his arm open pretty bad on the ring post. Speculation on how he did that from Jim Cornette himself. He speculated that since they were in North Carolina, they were just using a cheap high spots ring, and the ring posts are hollow. And Cornette took an educated guess, said the top of that ring post probably wasn't capped. So you had a nice sharp square edge on there, and that's probably how Cash Wheeler cut his arm open. But Cash Wheeler posted an update and said, and I quote, "Thank you to everyone that's reached out. I'll be fine. I'm pretty lucky. Sorry to anyone I haven't gotten back to yet. I'm still not going to respond to a lot of messages right now. I wanted to take the last week to get away in the mountains, clear my head, and see what the future holds. I won't be there tonight. I don't know when I'll be cleared, but I know that no matter what, Dax is the best friend I could ever ask for." It's a nice little heartwarming moment from Cash Wheeler and FTR there.
Yeah, well, I guess they're really friends, huh? Not just working friends.
Yeah. Best buds, buddies forever.
Buddies forever.
Let's see. So we touched on Adam Cole and Pete Dunne's contracts, so we got that. Nice little milestone for AEW. Got to give them props right here. I'm sure I've been known for giving them shit and saying their viewership is going to slowly decline. I'm not giving them all the props right now, Brian. I'm not telling them that they're going to run away with this thing now, but they did hit 4 weeks in a row with over 1 million viewers on AEW Dynamite.
Son of a bee.
You got to think every week was like something special. Either like, oh, it's a homecoming show, or it's Fight for the Fallen, or Malachi Black shows up. You know, they got
Fighter Fest Night 1, Night 2, Fight for the Fallen,
right.
Homecoming. They're going to Chicago with Rampage. Like everything's got a goddamn name.
Yeah, so everything they're bringing an attraction every week to AEW Dynamite. And we know every time they bring in an attraction, such as a big show, such as a Mike Tyson, something like that, they always draw a Shaquille O'Neal. They always draw over 1 million viewers. So I'm just hoping that they're not just blowing their load right now, and that they can keep this thing going. But yeah, 4 weeks in a row, over 1 million viewers. Got to give them congrats on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. The attractions are the scary thing. So these big debuts, pulling up Nick Gage and having him wrestle in his hardcore style death match, that's an attraction. Like you said, and all the Shaquille O'Neals disappearing from ambulances and such, all that stuff is never forgotten. So hopefully there's something that sticks, and then they can roll with a regular show when that wears off, because eventually that has to run out. That well's going to run dry.
Right. They're not going to be able to bring in an attraction of the week, 52 weeks a year. I kind of rushed on this one. I wasn't able to get a quote, but Max Caster from The Acclaimed came down rapping per usual for their match on AEW Dark. So I couldn't get the quote on the exact rap, but he came down rapping and mentioned something about mental health, like Simone Biles said they were going to do their team, the team they were facing, like Duke Lacrosse, which was a big rape scandal a few years back, fake PCR tests, and also they had to rhyme something about one of Julia Hart's body parts, something that rhymed with North Carolina, and they kind of left that one open. But either way, it pissed Tony Khan off pretty bad, and Tony Khan now says he himself will have his head in the editing booth a little more from now on, so shit like that doesn't slip through the cracks.
How about that they don't necessarily worry about the editing booth, and they worry about producing a show and not just letting numbskull knuckleheads run out there with microphones pretending that they're rappers saying whatever they want.
Right. I preach this every week. They need a booker, whatever you want to call it, a talent manager, somebody to tell these idiots no, and for them to run things by so that shit like this doesn't happen. YouTube or not, you can't be talking about rape, and mental health's kind of a touchy subject nowadays, and Simone Biles is fresh on everyone's mind, but and rhyming Carolina and vagina, and so
Allegedly.
yeah, that definitely should have went through some sort of booker or talent agent or somebody who would have said no.
Yeah, they could have filtered that out and have really easily avoided this problem. Hey, Max, let me see your rap tonight. Change that. Thanks. Come back again in 20, and we'll move on.
Freedom of speech, First Amendment, man. And then the biggest news of the week, it seems, and also very sad news, beautiful Bobby Eaton from the legendary Midnight Express passed away at the age of 62, less than 2 months after his wife passed away this June. And so, yeah, if you don't know about the Midnight Express, if you've never watched a Midnight Express match, they, in the 80s, were the blueprint for tag team wrestling. FTR has pulled some pages out of their book for sure. Midnight Express, highly regarded across all boards. Everybody seems to respect them. There was a ton of people paying their respects from every wrestling franchise you can think of. And I know the next episode of Cornette's podcast, he's going to be pretty torn up. Jim Cornette, of course, the manager of the Midnight Express and co-owner of the name Midnight Express, along with Bobby Eaton and the other couple guys that were in it at certain times. So, yeah, that was a big shot to the wrestling world. R.I.P. Beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Beautiful Bobby. I remember my memories of Beautiful Bobby. I remember because I went back and rewatched, and a wrestling connoisseur, and went back and watched everything, even as a young lad. So I remember the Midnight Express. I've seen those things, but my real memories stick out as in WCW when he was Beautiful Bobby and he would do the Alabama Jamma, and that was his finishing move off the top. He was a singles wrestler. Then he did a run with Steven Regal, and Steven Regal made him, they were the Blue Bloods, and he made him in like an English gentleman type character. So I remember all this stuff. That's what sticks out in my head, but he was one of your quintessential 80s wrestlers. He looked the part from day one.
Yeah, no doubt. Blueprint for tag team wrestler, blueprint for a heel, blueprint for an 80s wrestler, right down the line.
If you wanted to go as a Halloween for an 80s wrestler, I'd start with a Beautiful Bobby and Google Images.
Precisely. And as far as I can see, Brian, that's the end of the news. Did you get any stories that I missed?
That's all I heard. Same things. And so we'll take us out of this. And that was the news. KayFabe Smark, wrestling news of the week. We've lost beautiful Bobby.
From around the world.
From around the world. From Eric's eyeballs to your ears. All right, well, as always, following us is a little bit of the overrated, underrated, as we like to get into, in the KayFabe Smark podcast. This is where I like to throw some things out at Eric. He lets us know his opinion because, well, he has one and he likes to share it. So, this is what I've dubbed stipulation matches. Overrated or underrated stipulation matches. First one is an old school one, quintessential. We were talking about the 80s. This is it. Loser leaves town match. Overrated or an underrated thing?
Oh, man. That's kind of a hard one because I'm sure if we were really in the era of when these things were hot in the territory days, it would have been completely underrated. It would have been a huge thing. But now at our age and the way we look at the wrestling world, loser leaves town doesn't mean shit. So it's completely overrated. It just means you're going to go 100 miles down the road and learn a new hold. And then when the people in Ash, Nevada forget about you, we're going to turn back around and go back there and heal it up or make the crowd cheer. So, yes, from our eyes, overrated.
Overrated. All right, here we go. Overrated or underrated? Buried alive matches, meaning you're literally going to bury somebody alive. Now, we're not looking just at their matches that we've had, just the idea, the stipulation, we're going to bury you alive.
Completely overrated, garbage, and these things became popular. It was still in the era where people still believed in wrestling, when you still hated the heels, you still loved the baby faces, and this was one of the types of matches and one of the things that started to peel the mask, started to pull back the curtain so you could get a peek behind it, because no wrestling fan, no matter how into it you are, is going to believe that another wrestler is going to kill a wrestler and bury him alive. So I think it's completely overrated. People who go on and on about how great a buried alive match are kind of...
See, here's where I think that they lost me with the buried alive matches is that the casket matches were so cool. Those were cool matches because all you did was shut the lid.
Right.
Beat the hell out of somebody. No rules apply. Nothing's, the referee was just there to make sure the casket closed, right? That was it. So those were cool. And then the idea of the buried alive match was very similar, but a little different, and it opened it up a little bit. But they didn't treat it like that. They treated it like you were literally burying somebody, and that's when it lost. They pushed it over the edge for me. That's when they jumped the shark. If it would have just been you had to get your opponent into the hole and put 3 shovels of dirt on him. 1, 2, 3. Okay, hey, ding, ding, ding. You buried him. But they wanted to literally bury people, and it was just a way to write off the Undertaker or Kane.
Yeah, they wanted to bring in bulldozers and backhoes and what have you, and this is why it's way more overrated than a loser leave town. In the 70s and 80s in the territories, you really thought that the loser of that match was really gone, and it was a believable concept. He can't come back to Detroit anymore or whatever. And buried alive, there's no way that Mick Foley is going to kill the Undertaker for real. So yeah.
Overrated, underrated. Mask versus ... Mask versus mask. Mask versus hair. I think those was about your two. You either had a mask or you didn't. If you didn't, then you wore. Then it was all about your hair.
I think these matches are a bigger deal than people make them out to be. So I'm going to say underrated, because once you do the match and once the stipulation is carried out, there's no turning back for at least for a long time. for a mask, once a luchador loses his mask and you see his face, it ruins the whole mystique for that wrestler, for that character, and it's going to be a long time before he can get that mystique back. For hair, if a wrestler with really long hair, unless he planned on going bald anyway, it's going to be a really long time before he gets them luscious locks back. So I think because of the commitment involved in a mask or a hair match or what have you, it's an underrated concept.
All right. Here's one for you, and I know how you're going to feel about this. Overrated or underrated, eye for an eye match.
This falls in the buried alive category, and it's even worse. It's the stupidest shit. And it just, obviously, the Rey Mysterio, Seth Rollins pops into my head, and there's no way to make it look good. There's no way to commit to it for any type of time. Rey Mysterio just eventually got his eyeball back, and nobody really said anything about it. So it's the stupidest shit in the world, completely overrated.
Now, I think they could have went eye for an eye if they would have said something like, so say Seth Rollins attacks Rey Mysterio with a chair. Like, that's his gimmick. I'm just picking a weapon, right? Now, your eye for an eye match, don't take it literally eye for an eye, is that, like, you hit me with, so now we're going to have a chairs match. You have to, winner wins, but, it's the eye for an eye of how you were wronged. If that makes sense.
Fire with fire, fight fire with fire type thing.
But they took it literally, like we're going to yank somebody's eyeball out of their head. Like, that was dumb. I get you. If they would have used it in more of a concept. And the last one, overrated, underrated, the Inferno matches.
Overrated completely because, again, you're not going to burn your opponent to death. But visually, they were satisfying. The fire is a scary thing. It's going to get a reaction out of people no matter what. Even though you can jump through a flame or wave your hand through a flame and not get hurt, it's still visually captivating. But still, it's another one that you're not going to burn your opponent alive. Overrated.
The first one was very underrated. Look, it was a huge thing. I was like, how are they going to do this? How is it going to happen? But then you go to that was one that should have been done and then just tucked away.
Right.
Just tucked away. But anyways, that's that. Underrated, overrated, stipulation-style matches. And now we shall move on and talk about AEW and their homecoming show. Is that what it was?
Yes, we are back in Jacksonville, baby.
Baxon and Jackson. All right. Well, this card, from top to bottom, was about as weak as Tiny Tim on his crutches. Sorry for you. We'll talk about it, though.
All right. So there was a couple golden nuggets that ended up popping out of this thing, but it sure as hell wasn't this first match, Brian. Chris Jericho and Juventud Guerrera, my bad, was this the third Labor of Jericho?
Third, yeah, because I think there's 5. So 3, then 4 is, we'll find out, is Wardlow, and then 5 ends with MJF.
Yeah, so this match had nostalgia pops all over it when Juvi was coming down. Jericho comes down. He's got a Band-Aid on his upper right side of his forehead, right at his hairline. Not a scratch, not a nick, not a scar, not even a blemish of where Nick Gage was carving up Chris Jericho with that pizza cutter right in the middle of his forehead. And it just goes to show with AEW, they don't care about kayfabe at all. They don't want to make this shit believable at all. Nick Gage even did an interview saying, I carved him up with a pizza cutter. I wanted to make sure this was as real as possible. I didn't want to do any fake bullshit death match. If it was as real as possible, there's not a Band-Aid on his forehead. There's not a mark on his forehead. That irritated the living shit out of me that Chris Jericho after a death match has one Band-Aid on.
Yeah, they could have done anything. They've got a pretty much unlimited budget signing anybody who walks through the company. I think every person who, if you buy a ticket, you're actually an employee of AEW. So be careful if you go to any live events. But, they couldn't have done something, just some simple, the old tape around the ribs gimmick, if you will, but not so literal, right? You put the tape around the ribs from the night before match at a pay-per-view or the week before that they're so injured, so you could have done something to make it look like you got hurt. Or just, for the love of Pete, blade yourself before you walk out.
Right.
Put a Band-Aid on it.
Fake stitches, something. Make yourself look injured. That way, a death match from 6 nights ago doesn't look like you just went through a walk through a rose bush. Like, you guys were supposed to be killing each other in the kayfabe world.
Right.
So, yeah, the fact that Jericho at 50 years old comes out completely unharmed, not limping, anything, it just makes it.
Who cares?
It makes it, who gives a shit? There's no reality to it whatsoever. As far as this match, though, that was Jericho's entrance. Juventud Guerrera starts out promising. He comes off hot. He's got fast and accurate strikes. And it's like, okay. Juvi might still have it. This might be okay. And then there it goes, Brian.
Then the gate,
it gets rough from that point and never comes back.
The gate got rusty.
So at one point, Juvi yanks on Jericho's hair and Jericho takes a flat back bump. He gets up way too fast from the hair pull and has to just stand there facing the corner and waiting for Juvi to climb the rope to attempt to head scissor take down Jericho. His feet slip off Jericho's head immediately. Jericho still tries to sell it and does the most fat man half-ass somersault I've ever seen. And it was just embarrassing. We're not even a minute into this thing, Brian. Yeah. And I'm embarrassed that I'm watching it.
It got very clunky very fast. And I'm not sure if where I didn't keep up on Juventud Guerrera's career after WCW shut down, so I wasn't too positive on everything that went down in the last 20 years, probably since I've seen him wrestle. Even if he did half a stint in WWE when they bought out WCW, which I don't really remember, it was not memorable. So he looked in great shape. He looked good.
He looked fantastic, yeah.
Or maybe he still got it, but they just weren't gelling that night. Maybe Jericho doesn't have it and wasn't flowing with Juvi. I don't know. But either way, the match was starting off stinky.
Oh, that was the first real botch. They botched the head scissors. Almost immediately after that, Jericho stands up. Juventud looks fucking lost. He looks like an Alzheimer's patient at a nursing home at this point, waiting for his jello. Jericho, no ad-libbing, no calling an audible here. He just turns around and faces the corner with nobody in it and waits for Juvi to climb the ropes so they can do the exact same spot again. And it turns out exactly the same way. Juvi's feet slip off Jericho's head again. This time Jericho just somersaults to the outside.
Cool.
So they botch a move, and why would they try and do it again and botch it again? I don't know.
Yeah, this should have been a moved on and just let it be. Let it be.
Right. Jericho's on the outside of the ring. Juvi jumps off the top rope and does a butt bump, but kind of landing in Jericho's arms like a newly married bride here, and they both fall to the floor. The crowd starts chanting, "Holy shit." Even after watching those first 2 botches and complete fuck-ups of simple moves and watching him jump into Jericho's arm, they're chanting, "Holy shit." And these are the easiest bunch of dipshits to entertain. This a crowd full of the village idiots, Brian, that they're popped. They popped and were chanting "Holy shit" for this complete garbage that they're watching.
Yeah, thank God that they live Jericho. Thank God for Jericho and Hoovy that the world lives in a TikTok 30-second, 60-second mindset. They're like, "Well, we forgot about what happened a minute ago. That was pretty cool though. Holy shit, he jumped off into your arms." I mean, it was a decent little spot. It was very quick and everything else, but it wasn't holy shit, and we've already been led up with 2 pieces of shit.
Right. And dives are nothing special in AEW. And this wasn't even a dive. He just jumped butt first, like he was doing a cannonball into a kiddie pool. And some garbage happened. Jericho tried to rip Hoovy's mask off, and I don't think anyone would care if this guy lost his mask. He hasn't wrestled in 35 years. But they're setting up for a big spot here. They're setting up for Hoovy's Avalanche Hurricanrana. And goddamn, Brian, it took them close to a minute to set this thing up for both of them to get their fat, loopy asses on the turnbuckles and in position for Avalanche Hurricanrana. Hoovy jumps up and attempts it. Jericho is supposed to counter this thing into a Walls of Jericho, and they just tumble off the rope together, hit the mat. Jericho somehow salvages it and gets to his feet and just kind of puts Hoovy into the sloppiest Walls of Jericho this side of the Mississippi. It was rough. It was rough. This thing can take up a whole episode of Botchamania by itself.
It was a stinkeroonie. This whole thing sucked. I didn't care for this match. I wasn't even excited about it. It was like, okay, Juventud, Jericho, they had some good matches. They did their thing in WCW, but it wasn't, oh my God, a score to settle them all. Juventud, it's been a mockery. You were down, his debut in '99, right? You were down there fighting some guy named Juventud, and then Jerry Lawler. Juventud? What's a Juventud? It's like, all that stuff's been a joke for these years. So, like, after he's going to fight him again, it was like, who cares?
Right, and especially this thing after the death match where Jericho got carved up. Now you got to fight a wrestler who hasn't fought in 15 years because there's been a couple of jokes on WWE. I'm sorry I'm spending so much time on this thing, but there's so many botches that we got to keep it rolling. Hoovy is supposed to do this reversal into a DDT, and they completely fucked that up. And somehow it's recognizable as a DDT. And Jericho finally wraps this thing up. The only way he can get a pin is coming off the top rope. So he eventually gets up to the top rope and does a Judas effect off the top rope and finally ends this torture. Pins Hoovy 1, 2, 3, and then wouldn't be AEW without an afterbirth. Wardlow comes in and kicks everybody's ass. He's kicking Hoovy's ass. He's kicking Jericho's ass. Everybody's getting boots to asses.
Boots to asses, and then MJF is circling around the back there getting ready to make a speech. But before we dive into that, you were talking about Jericho doing the mask spot, getting ready to rip it off of him, and you wondered if anybody would have actually cared. I had to check my research real quick because I didn't want to put my foot in my mouth, but they wouldn't care because if you want to see Juventud Guerrero without a mask, you can just go back to WCW in 1998 when he lost it and then never wore a mask again for his remainder of his career from like 96, 97 all the way through until 2001. So who the hell cares if he would have ripped his mask off? Just like they did it to Rey Mysterio, but they hated masks in WCW is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
they were the first anti-maskers.
You just put the cherry on the sundae. Just another bad example, or another good example of bad booking going on there, where we're going to do a mask spot on a guy who hasn't worn a mask.
Last time he was on TV,
hasn't wrestled with a mask on.
Last time he was on TV, he didn't wear a mask. Now he's back on TV with one. Who cares? Now, back to some of the important stuff. You've got MJF circling about on the back of the in the audience area there. You got Wardlow murdering everybody in the ring because you have to have Jericho down so you can have the same speech that you've had every other week to lead up to these next labors of Jericho. So MJF takes over with one of his promos, obviously always very good as the heel, but the crowd was very into flipping him off and yelling, "You suck." And if anybody can get over on the AEW crowd to make them hate them, like these are a bunch of like insider smarks that are like into the game, right? You know everything
Right.
about everything. And they're like screaming, that MJF sucks and giving him the bird, and just it was pretty amazing that he can still get under skin of people that know it's all bullshit.
Yeah, MJF just has this aura about him that we know it's a character. We know he's grateful to be in the wrestling business. We know he absolutely loves the wrestling business. But when he speaks, there is something about him, just a hint in there that like maybe he really fucking hates us. And he comes off as so genuine when he is talking down to the crowd or talking down to his opponent or talking down to the TV camera. There's a small percentage of you that thinks it's a shoot. And I think that's how MJF gets over as a heel.
Well, he did start by that area that he was talking in front of in the very beginning of the match when he came down to go do commentary. As he cut across that way, he grabbed somebody's sign and then ripped it in half and rubbed it on his balls and then threw it into the rest of the audience. So, you start out hot with some people, they're going to be mad at you. But, boy, he can get under some skin, can't he?
Oh, man. Great classic heel, MJF. I can't wait till he gets away from Jericho and gets a little of his own creative freedom, and we get a taste of the MJF we met 2 years ago. But MJF announces the fourth labor of Jericho here, which will be a match against Wardlow, and we got our special guest referee for this match, none other than MJF himself. And this, I believe, is painting themselves into a corner. You're pretty good at pulling bookings out of your ass and ways to book in and out of things. But I see this as them booking themselves into a corner of Jericho has to win. So that means MJF will get knocked out somehow, some way in this match. And another referee will come in and fill in for him and count the 1, 2, 3 for Jericho.
Or, yeah, that's the big one. That's the easy one. You could do it really good where Jericho gets one up on Wardlow and actually gets him down, and you get that stare off. So Jericho's pinning him. He's got Wardlow's leg up, and MJF has to get down on the ground. He's counting 1, and he's screaming, "Come on, kick out Wardlow 2." And they're just like, but he's looking at Jericho the whole time, and he has no option but to hit 3 on him. And it's just like that could tell a good story that they have to face each other again too, but. That's just one of my random thoughts off the top of my head.
That would be a more dramatic way to go. With all the lazy booking we see week to week, I think MJF's just going to get knocked out, and Ref Aubrey or Rick Knox or somebody's going to come in there and count the 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. That's what it will be, and it's going to stink no matter which way you look at it. It probably won't be done right. I don't have faith in it.
All right, so we started this night off bad.
We like wrestling, people. We like wrestling.
We do, but we don't like lazy, sloppy, bad wrestling. And this thing started off turd sandwich 100%.
What was next?
Next, we got Dasha in the back. Dasha is with Alex and the Lucha Bros. No Pac to be seen. And we're revisiting the same exact storyline, same exact writing as last week, except this time, instead of the Lucha Bros being lost in traffic, Pac is lost. And same exact reason. Andrade canceled their travel plans. And we get Chavo and Rey Fenix and Penta El Cerro Dinero exchanging some words, some in English, some in Spanish. Andrade gets a sentence in or two, but there was no subtitles, so I couldn't tell what he was saying. And that was a wrap on that.
Yeah.
Basically the same promo we saw last week.
It was, and Chavo is so over the top for me that it's not fitting of his character of a person that you know Chavo to be. So I think it all. I don't like this. Obviously, I see it probably a heel turn coming of some kind. The Lucha Bros bombing out on Pac, the Death Triangle. Nobody cares about it, so it's not like a big loss. You can have him go with Andrade. That's my guess, is that it's eventually going to happen, but we'll see when. Or you might see the Lucha Bros split. Or Pac turns on him and joins Andrade. That'd be the real tick kicker.
There you go. And I like Andrade. I like him more in AEW than I did in WWE. To be frank, in WWE...
Can I still be Brian?
You could still be Brian. I'm Frank right now. I really couldn't tell that Andrade existed over in the WWE. But here, his presence and the way he dresses and the way he walks around, he is that shitty asshole heel, and he's playing it well. It's just the problem is he can't talk. So keep him off the mic. Keep letting Chavo talk for him. And I think Andrade is going to make his way through this thing as a smarmy asshole heel.
Yes, he definitely dresses anything, or he dresses 100% opposite is what I'm trying to spit out here as I stumble over my own words, of anybody in AEW, right? He's wearing suits, and he's got pocket squares and looking very expensive, whether it is actually expensive or not, but he's looking very classy compared to, sweatpants and T-shirts.
Or purple jeans and a Cookie Monster T-shirt. But we got another backstage segment here. We got Tony Schiavone in the back with the Dork Order. Adam Page pops in, and sad moment, Brian, real tear-jerker moment. Adam Page breaks up with the Dork Order, basically tells him to hit the bricks. He plays the sympathy card that this is all his fault. He cost them their chance at a tag team championship. But Adam Page just has to handle this on his own, and he is done with the Dark Order as of now.
I still am not terribly mad at this storyline. I know it's not your favorite, but I don't mind it. He's like the cool guy that gave the dorks some attention. He's the the quarterback that said, hey, man, these kids over here are pretty cool. And they're like, oh, they're enamored by him. It's not a bad storyline, and the fact that he's trying to be the good guy through all of this is still, it works. He's going for that cowboy gimmick, the lone soldier, if you will, and it all goes together very well. So I don't necessarily hate it. I think it's being played out very well too. It's not super cheesy really to me. It's not very. I don't feel the super hatred for it. I don't know if you actually hate it or not, or how you actually feel.
No, this is a shoot, Brian. I really hate it because let's rewind the clock a little bit. You're looking at this a little bit too much in the moment. The Dark Order. Remember when there was an aura of mystery about them? Well, they were a place for the outcasts to come, and once all these outcasts are together, they're gonna bring in what was Brody Lee's title?
Exalted something.
Yeah. And they were gonna basically come destroy all the people that made them outsiders and outcasts, and they were a heel faction. Now they're a fucking clown show of goofs who just laugh and joke and I'm Johnny Hungy, and they're just a bunch of they're the epitome of dorks sitting in their mom's basement watching wrestling with their dicks in their hands. They're just a bunch of goofs with bad comedy, and now they look up to Adam Page, the cool guy. So in the moment, it makes sense. But when you look at what the Dark Order was and what they are now, it's complete trash.
I give them the benefit of the doubt that they completely pulled a 180 on the Dark Order after the passing of Brody Lee. They had probably a whole different plan lined up, and they were sticking to it even with Brody Lee in. But because they were already still idiots and dorks. Remember, he'd hit him with papers and he's screaming at him all the time?
Well, all that was on the internet, though, behind the scenes, which I know tons of people saw, but I never saw any of that. So I didn't know about the dorky, goofy side of Brody Lee and the Dark Order behind the scenes. I only knew them as the exalted one in this serious, dark faction that was like out to take over AEW.
So I let it go because of that and the passing that they changed it, and it's still okay to me. So maybe it's just because, you served up enough junk that something... a rock looks like a nice piece of jewelry after a while.
Right. Eventually you shine a piece of coal long enough, it's going to shine, I guess. Um, we move on to another pile of trash here. We got a trios tag. We got 2.0
Oh.
and Jerry Garcia versus John Moxley, Darby Allin, and Eddie Kingston with their mascot Sting. And
This was a
from
squash match upon squash matches. None of this made any sense.
this match made my head hurt, Brian. First of all, I saw somewhere on the news sites, I guess this 2.0 team, they were in WWE or something for a minute. I don't know. NXT, the training facility, who knows.
They had a ticket to SummerSlam one year. They went and saw it. So they're part of WWE.
Either way, they stunk. Their boy Garcia sucked. And this was just all chaos from start to finish. It was just basically people doing shit to each other on this side of the ring, that side of the ring, outside of the ring, on the rope. One of the 2.0 guys, anything he says to anybody, he screams it. Go ahead and hit me. You're taking us away. Oh my God. It was just annoying as fuck. Eventually, Mox hits a paradigm shift. Eddie Kingston hits a back fist, and Darby Allin hits a coffin drop, and they finally put an end to these idiots. It took 3 finishers. I understand they were just putting the nail in the coffin to officially make this thing a squash, but whoever planned this match out, whoever put the pen to paper and wrote, you guys are going to do this, just must have been chugging Red Bulls and snorting lines of Coke and was just writing all over the page. It was just pure chaos and didn't make a lick of sense from beginning to end.
It was just a way to put the stars of the show, of their brand, on TV. They had nothing for Darby Allin, nothing for Moxley, and then Kingston comes along with that. And they got Sting out there, too. So they got 4 guys out on TV in the live crowd. Hey, here we are. That's all I can think of. They just like, we're going to come in. So what does this do for this 2.0 team that's supposedly in this Jerry Garcia or whatever his name is? Like, what does this do for them that they came in and they demanded, they got signed and they said, you guys can fight whoever you want. You come in, and we want Darby Allin and John Moxley and Sean Kingston.
They're going to be suicidal if they keep messing around with those 3.
So then they come in and lose
badly.
So what does that do? It's not even like they put up a fight, right? Remember when Jeff Hardy was on the come up and he fought the Undertaker and he's like, I'm gonna make you famous, kid, and he goes out there and they had a hell of a good match and still the Undertaker beat him, but there was and then Jeff Hardy grew from that because he shook his hand and everything. But these clowns beat the shit out of these guys, made them look like garbage, and then went off the air hugging Sting and doing his old screaming, the Stinger screams and everything, and John Moxley and Eddie Kingston smiling. There was no fist bumps going, hey, look at these kids. They put up a fight. It was like, man, well, fuck these morons. You're off to dark.
Yeah, what this reminded me of, especially old boys yelling and screaming every line, it reminded me of you and I going to a show at the flea market, and this dickhead tag team who it's their first time in a wrestling ring, and they just want everybody to notice them. They think that some big shot wrestling recruiter is going to see him at Dixieland flea market screaming his head off and go, wow, we got to sign this guy. It was just talentless nobody screaming for attention, in my opinion. Right. And that's what they came off as. And I don't think we'll ever see them on TNT anytime soon, at least.
Yeah, I don't see that either. We continue on, though, with this Stinkfest.
Yes, and Stinkfest continues with the Brian Cage and Team Taz pre-tape package we got going on here. This wasn't terrible, mainly because Ricky Starks was involved, and Ricky Starks can carry anything when it comes to talking. Brian Cage is all right. I don't believe a word he says, when he talks about Team Taz or Ricky Starks or anything. But it was just a pre-tape package to move this feud along, I guess.
The only thing I can give AEW on this one is that they've stuck with this storyline for a while now, and actually had it very secretively growing in the back, right? If you were to watch it on surface, you didn't see it. If you're watching little things and watch all the time, you're going, oh, I see some old classic things where somebody's gonna leave the group there. So I can give it to them. They're sticking with it. It might not be the greatest thing ever told, but it's, they're sticking with continuity, the story staying together, and it's not terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't trash, but and like I said, when Ricky Starks is talking, I listen. So it moved along quite nicely. We go to the back and an obvious pre-tape because of all the basketball trickery that had to be accomplished here. We got the entire Elite in the back with the basketball hoop from last week. Apparently they put it in their truck and brought it to Jacksonville. And Kenny Omega is dressed like a fucking clown. He's got bright purple jean shorts 6 inches above his knee. He's wearing a Cookie Monster t-shirt. You got the Good Brothers doing basketball tricks. Kenny Omega shooting free throws. This was just, I don't remember a word they said, to be honest. It was just a fucking clown show out back just to remind us that the Elite are obnoxious and they try too hard.
They're obnoxious and they try too hard. I like a different version of the Elite. I like the New Japan Bullet Club version of the Elite that were they were very cocky, but they weren't this like over the top like frat boy, fuck boy style thing that they have going on. They were just very cocky and got in the ring and took care of business, stated that they could beat everybody and do what they wanted to do. They were still too cool for the room. They still didn't care what people said, but it wasn't this. It's just this different iteration of it, and I don't care for this version of it because I don't like these guys. The thing that drew me into the Young Bucks, the thing that drew me into the Elite, the thing that drew me into the Bullet Club many years back was it was like, shit, I want to hang out with those guys. That's like a clique that I want to be a part of, right? You wanted to hang with Shawn and Diesel and be the outsiders, or whatever, with Hall and Nash as the outsiders, and even in the NWO, but with the Wolfpack. Like the whole black and white NWO was like, fuck, like you wanted to hang with the Wolfpack. Even when the Wolfpack was part of the black and white, you wanted to hang with that. You wanted to be a part of the Bullet Club. I don't want to hang out with these guys. I don't.
No. They're the douchebags at the party that people just stare at from a distance. Maybe that's what they're going for. It appears that is what they're going for, and they're trying really hard. I guess they're being heels, and people are hating them. But for me, it's more so turn off the TV heat. Not, I can't wait till Adam Page gets his hands on you heat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is like don't pause it if I have to go to the bathroom, even though it's pre-recorded or whatever, I'm watching it on a DVR. This is like, just let it play and I'll figure it out later. It's just, guys, it's just not the vibe that I want to be around, of not the people that I would like to be around. That's how I take it. And again, you're right. It's turn off the heat or turn off the TV heat. It's fast forward heat. It's I don't give a fuck heat.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes from there. But I just, like I said, didn't remember a word they said. Just looking at them in disgust, like you said, these are the douchebag frat boys that you just get the
heebies,
the ick vibe off of.
The douche chills.
Yes, 100%. And we move on to that. We got another match on our plate here. This one, to me, I thought had some potential. Turns out I was wrong. We've got Christian Cage versus The Blade.
I'm with you. I 100% agree. I was like, this could be good. The Blade's not a bad wrestler. His gimmick's kind of wonky. Can't figure out exactly what it is. But not a bad wrestler. Christian Cage is Christian Cage. And I don't want to say that I was expecting it to tear down the house, but I thought, man, this might be something we aren't terribly mad at. I just kind of stay like even with it. It just existed.
Right. I wasn't expecting a barn burner like you, but I was expecting a solid wrestling match. I like the Blade. He's a good performer. Um, I've always liked Christian Cage, and he still seems to be smooth in the ring. So I expected a little more than what we got. Cage jumps off things, attacking Blade on the ramp. Classic heel move, even though Christian's a babyface, but we get it. He's got real animosity, blah, blah, blah. We get Blade back in the ring, Christian's in the ring, and we start this thing off. Tony Schiavone just has to let the cat out of the bag immediately and make sure everybody knows that Brass Knuckles will be involved. Immediately saying the minute the match starts, the second the match starts, Schiavone's like, oh, with the Blade here, Brass Knuckles are going to be involved in this match. Why? Why would you tell people straight away and leave no surprise whatsoever when the Blade's going to grab those Brass Knuckles? Why would you just put it in the forefront so that we're all expecting it? It completely takes any surprise out from when the spot happens.
Go back. We talked about Ric Flair earlier. I'll talk about him getting here for a moment. He was and is known as the dirtiest player in the game. That was okay to always say. Remember, you keep your eye on Ric Flair. He's the dirtiest player in the game. So the commentators, Tony Schiavone, would commentate that Ric Flair is a piece of garbage and he's the dirtiest player in the game and he's going to do what it takes to win. That was a hidden thing saying, how's Ric Flair going to cheat tonight? Keep your eye out. Not Ric Flair is the dirtiest player in the game. He likes to poke your eye when the ref's not looking. And you know what I'm saying? When you're in the figure four, he's going to grab the middle rope and not let go. Like, that's giving it away. So why couldn't he just say, the Blade's been known to pull some shenanigans?
There you go. Leave it up so that you're looking for something and you're semi-surprised when the spot happens. But Schiavone just gives it all away. He gives like a game of Clue. He's given the location. He's given the weapon. He's given the suspect.
It was Blade in the corner with the brass knucks.
So, yeah, that took me out of it right away. We got brawling on the outside. Nobody gives a shit. There's no danger of being counted out. Nobody's looking at the referee. There was not a care in the world about being counted out. Christian is up on the ring apron. The bunny is just blatantly attacking him. No danger of a DQ. The ref doesn't even go talk to Bunny. The ref doesn't try and push her away or eject her out of the building. No danger of a DQ or anything from that. That's because we were waiting on Layla Hirsch to come out and fight the bunny so that they can fight off to the back. And so yeah, this thing was just, it made no sense and it had no structure and it was just complete malarkey from the beginning to this point in this match.
Malarkey. I like that word, malarkey. This thing was malarkey, and that's the best thing you can say for it. It just didn't know who, what, why, where, when, what's happening. It just, then they keep talking about Christian Cage is the number 1, number 2 rated wrestler in AEW. It's like, when has he fought?
Right. Does he automatically get a higher ranking because of his name and
I guess
where he came from?
Like your record, if your record's 1-0, you're just considered undefeated, and that makes that just like gives you a high ranking. Like, what about somebody who's like 35 and 17? Like that's like I don't know. There's nothing for quantity over top of that as well. I didn't hate it. There was nothing to like. Is how I want to describe this match.
Yeah, this was basically a brawl. Which I understand why they would want to go for a brawl to try and push real animosity between these guys. But this was basically a brawl with a wrestling move here and there. When these two guys are alone in the ring and there's no outside interference or anything to focus on, they actually have decent chemistry together and they get a couple decent moves in and they're smooth together. And then the brass knuck spot comes up. Blade gets the brass knucks out of his fanny pack or wherever the hell it's at. And there's no spot. He puts him on. Cage immediately spears him, gets the pin. 1, 2, 3.
I guess
that was the surprise we were looking for.
I did like the little bit how he set up to get the brass knucks to actually distract the referee in an AEW match. Now, he didn't have to go through the hassle of all this because, was it Rick Knox that was the referee? He's just an idiot anyways. He's going to stand around and let you do what you want. So he goes like he's going to tear the turnbuckle off the corner there, and he's trying to yank it, and then he looks like he gives up on it, and the referee goes to fix it, and that's when he runs into his bag and grabs the knucks to turn around to do the gimmick. So it's like it was a kind of a cool idea to like, hey, look, the referee's distracted for a second. It took a little long. The referee had to like overact on trying to fix the turnbuckle. And the other side of this, the other part of it that makes it suck is an AEW ref has never counted to 7, let alone cared that you've used brass knucks in a match, let alone cared that 76 people from other promotions that aren't even signed to the company have run into the ring. But god dang it, if that turnbuckle is crooked, Rick Knox is going to fix it.
Precisely. We can't have an off-kilter ring accessory here. That needs to be fixed immediately. But yeah, just rough match. Just very underwhelming for the two guys who are involved. Cage gets the pin here, and I believe this makes him the number 1 contender.
So fight guys that are in the contendership then. You're fighting Blade. He's mid-card. Why isn't he, if he's a number 1 contender, why isn't he fighting higher contender? Why isn't he involved in backstage segments with people that have titles that he wants to contend for? If it's Rusev and you're going after the TNT for being, hey, I'm a number 1, I'm high ranking. I can call my shot what I want, and I want the TNT championship. Then talk to Rusev. If it's Kenny, then go after Kenny. You're just fighting mid-card guys in the middle of, what is it? Who cares? Who cares?
That's what I'm saying. Put him in the TNT title race with Miro / Rusev. But no, you got Christian busy with the Blade, who's not only a mid-carder, but he's part of a tag team. Yes. He's not a singles wrestler.
Yeah, supposedly, wherever the butcher went.
Yeah, he's working overtime at Walmart in the meat department. But Christian's busy with a mid-card tag team guy. Miro's busy with Shoddy Lee, fresh off an AEW Dark appearance. The math adds up, Brian. You got 2 top-ranked guys that could be working together, but they're both busy with just fucking lower-level dipshits.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with it.
Yeah. We get a FTR Proud and Powerful package, and both of these, well, you got Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz, and Cash obviously not around this week, but you got Dax, and all 3 of these motherfuckers can talk, and you feel the heat between them, and Dax cuts a real passionate promo about Cash's injury, and that's helped out with the visuals of close-ups of the blood pooling on the floor from Cash cutting his arm and everything. So yeah, this FTR Santana Ortiz thing definitely has my interest peaked.
Yeah, these guys can talk, they can work, and this is where they should be focusing their energy on. It's people like this, not what we just saw before that. You need to keep the people together that can work together.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking forward to that. We got more talking going on. There seems to be a lot of talking.
There was a lot of backstage, this stage, in the ring, out of the ring, interview type shit this week.
Oh, Shivani's his voice is gonna be hoarse tomorrow after all this yakking. He's in the ring with Britt Baker, gets a nice gentle hug from Britt Baker there. Red Velvet makes her way down to the ring. When's the last time we seen Red Velvet?
When's the last time we cared?
Yeah, good point. Touche. We get a little back and forth, mouthing off between Red Velvet and Britt Baker, DMD here, and this whole thing wraps up with a curb stomp from Britt Baker to Red Velvet, and yeah, I guess these two are gonna fight.
I did like how they let it up. Britt led the talking. It all made sense. I'm gonna put it on a big show. I'm gonna do this, and I'll get what I want because I'm Tony Khan's, whatever she called herself, and this and that, and then the quick turn, the heel nonsense. She did that like super kick to the knee, curb stomp to the face on top of that crutch or whatever it was from Rebel that they stole from her. And
oh yeah,
It was pretty dope. I liked the way it all wrapped up, and I think they let Britt run the show, and it all made sense. But
And
why? But
Red Velvet's just cringy.
But why Red Velvet gets the shot? That's another question. But it's the women's side, so we just roll with it.
Right. The line with the most heat, Brian. Red Velvet saying to Britt Baker, "Red is not your color."
That made me mad because then even Red Velvet with the name Red Velvet wasn't wearing red. It's so stupid that it makes me mad, but it irritated me. It was like, well, you're wearing all black.
I mean, if she would have threw in the mixing spoon gimmick, that would have just threw it over the top for me.
Yeah, she should work at a bakery and just make red velvet cakes, and that's what should be her gimmick. She should throw them at people in the ring. Like, she should be old school 80s. If your name's Red Velvet, you got to work at a bakery. And you throw flour in people's face for your finishing move.
That's it. And then you got a legitimate heat between her and Britt Baker because she's Red Velvet, the Baker, taking on Britt Baker, and they got to fight to see who gets the title of the only Baker in AEW.
And guess what dentists don't like? Sugar in your teeth. So
there you
the
go.
dentist is fighting the baker for, supreme cavity over.
Internet booking at its best, baby, right here on the KayFabe Smark.
Where the hell do we go after this nonsense?
After this, we go back to Andrade. Andrade, they are really pushing him on TV time here. Apparently, he's on the recruitment spree right now, and Chavo has found somebody to join Andrade's stable, none other than Salsa del Sol. And
oh man, wow, how'd they get that signing?
Yeah, I don't know. They must have went right to the high school gym and plucked his ass out. But apparently, Andrade needed his shoe shined, and Solio here wasn't interested in being a shoe shine boy, so he catches a couple boots from Andrade. And after Andrade kicks the living shit out of him, Chavo tells Mr. Soul here to finish shining the shoes. So, yeah, this was just unremarkable. Didn't mean anything. It was just a pile of poop to get us into a commercial break, I guess.
Unremarkable. There's no remarks to be had.
Then more talking, Brian.
This yakety yak don't talk back.
The Elite and Adam Page get more TV time. There's 175 wrestlers on this AEW roster. And we're giving guys multiple promos in a 2-hour show with 25, 30 minutes of commercials. We got Adam Page in the ring. He's all alone with the entire Elite. I get where this thing's going. He's the one-man wrecking crew. He's going to take care of his animosity between himself and the Elite. Omega digs into Page verbally, insults him to the point where Page has to attack. Page, very expectedly, gets attacked by the entire Elite team. And here it comes, Brian. Dork Order comes out to make the save.
But, Pizzeria Uno and the other guy.
And Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson, don't call me Stu, stops him and says, no. He wants to do this on his own. No hard feelings. Remember, there's no hard feelings. But he wants this on his own. And for his troubles and them not saving him, he catches 3 BTE triggers to the dome piece.
Yes, back-to-back-to-back BTE triggers.
I didn't get any of this spot. This whole promo. I didn't get any of it. No challenges were made out of it. No nothing. Kenny Omega really didn't get involved besides just kind of yelling and screaming over the top about what to do. The Young Bucks beat up Adam Page. Sorry. Too many pages and cages. It gets my tongue tied up. Beats up Adam Page. But he's not in a tag team, so is he going to grab somebody and fight the Young Bucks now? Is he still trying to go after a title? He hasn't said what he wants to do. And then the Kenny and the Elite never challenge anything back. They just beat him up. It was like a bad WCW NWO spot at the end of Nitro. Like, All right, they came out and they beat up 46 of the guys and go off the air, and I didn't know why it happened, just that chaos to have chaos for the sake of chaos.
Basically, I saw the only goals in this thing was to drive a wedge further between Adam Page and the Dark Order and to make the Elite, to get more heat on the Elite, to make them look bad. But they have plenty of it already. They're already douchebags that everyone hates. So this didn't further anything with them, in my opinion.
But what is going to come out of them hating or the wedge being driven between Adam Page and the Dark Order? They already don't talk anymore, so they can eventually turn on him and actually beat him up. But where does that take for Adam Page? What does that get him?
Yeah, I don't know. You're thinking further ahead than me and the AEW writing staff at that point. I don't think they know where it's going.
Writing staff, you crazy bastard.
I'm giving them too much credit, I know. But that was that was the spot right there. The, oh my God, he's going to get saved and then let down was the Dark Order coming out. But they decide to re-up. It's almost like AEW's trying to make things make sense. You can't have Adam Page getting his ass beat and nobody try and help him, because that wouldn't make sense. So they send Kaz out, Frankie Kazarian, the Elite Hunter, all by himself to take on the 6 people in the Elite and just go ahead and get his ass kicked. That didn't make any sense either. I understand you're saying, well, somebody's got to help them. But who in their right mind would go out there and in a ring with the Good Brothers in it and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and Don Fallis and think they're going to do anything? It just, Kaz should have just stayed his ass at home.
You can't have the name the Elite Hunter when you haven't done anything in an Elite match. He should be ruining every Elite match.
Oh, he's beat up Brandon Cutler, remember? A couple times he's knocked the cold spray out of his hand.
I was bored the other day, and I called him up and I beat him up. It doesn't matter, but he should be interfering with every Young Bucks match. He should be interfering and causing them losses. That's the Elite Hunter. He should take out some of the shittier guys that nobody cares about. You know, you should not see Brandon Cutler after the Elite Hunter gets him. You can write the Good Brothers off. They're not even a part of your organization. So beat them up and let them, go away for a little bit. The Elite Hunter should be taking them out, but the Elite Hunter comes out and gets beat up and then just gets mad and sits in the back with a hoodie on and then doesn't interfere in their matches and occasionally comes out every now and then.
And gets his ass kicked. Just like you said, it would make so much more sense if he's the Elite Hunter and he picks off Michael Nakazawa. Michael Nakazawa's not doing anything. Nobody gives a shit that he's there. Put him in the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks and say Frankie Kazarian did it and show vignettes of Michael Naz's knock it the fuck off doing physical therapy at the hospital because Kaz fucked him up so bad. That is an Elite Hunter.
Yeah, not the nonsense we're getting where he gets in and then gets beat up. You're not a hunter if you never have killed a deer. I'm a deer hunter. And every time you go shoot a deer, they spear you with their antlers. And you're like, I'm going to go hunting again. You're like, you fucking suck. You should
find a new hobby.
Yeah. The deer, you've been hurt more than you've hurt a deer. You dumb shit.
Finally, Brian, we are well over an hour into this thing, and we finally got a wrestling match. And we got one that I did not expect shit out of that actually drew me in. I expected Big Shotty Lee Johnson to just job his ass off to Miro. I expected a 3-second squash, and that was not what we got, Brian. We got a psychological thriller right here of a TNT title match.
And you know what? It was done right in my eyes. They did right by me.
This was the best written, planned, however you want to say it, match as far as psychology and as far as the wave, the roller coaster of emotions you want to ride in a match. This was the best booked match on the card tonight.
So you have to have Miro win. He can't lose
Clearly
to Big Shotty on TV, a free show, to this jobber, this glorified jobber. Sorry, but it is what it is. Now, they can't have him do that, but how do you get out of this? we like Big Shotty. How do you not let him get murdered and look like a piece of garbage? Well, you got to be creative. That's where I thought they were going to fail. I just thought they were just going to bury Big Shotty and just be done with him.
Oh, yeah. I assumed a 30-second squash, and that's the way it started looking from the beginning. Miro out the gates, completely dominating Lee Johnson. Anytime Lee Johnson got any iota of offense into this match, Miro completely no-sold it. I am eating it up because that's exactly what Miro needs to be doing.
That's what Miro needs to be doing. It works out great for that, and you just need. But the spots that he got in the spots that Lee Johnson got in made sense. He was quick and he exploded on him, and it knocked him off his feet. He could go for a pin, but he kicks out at before one or at one. That was perfect. He didn't oversell it, but hey, man, you hit me, you caused me some cobwebs, and it made Miro madder. The story. This little son of a bitch is getting over on me. He's a little quicker than I was expecting. I thought they did great by this.
Yeah, precisely. Lee Johnson did get in sporadic offensive moves here. Miro no selling everything. Eventually, Lee Johnson does a snaky small guy thing, reverses a move into a huge DDT here. Miro no sells it, and then does the Ric Flair flop here. Just falls down, and then that's where Shotty Lee gets his comeback started here. He hits Miro with 3 dives and a top rope crossbody. Johnson gets 5 not so super kicks, but kicks anyway to Miro's face and a frog splash. And Miro's reeling, and Miro's starting to sell. He's gradually selling more and more of Lee Johnson's comeback, and it's believable. Miro went from completely no selling to you throw enough pebbles at a giant, eventually it's going to wear him out. Miro ends up countering a fireman carry, and that Lee Johnson stupidly attempts on him because Miro is like 300 pounds of pure muscle. And then it's a wrap from there. Miro puts him in that camel clutch roll back choke move, and within 2 seconds, Big Shotty is out, nap time, and it's a wrap on that match.
I thought it was well done. I said it 2-3 times now, but they told it very well. It could have just made Lee Johnson look like garbage, or they could have went the proverbial Cody Rhodes way of doing these mid-card wrestlers and having him look like he's actually getting 2 3/4 counts on Miro all the time, and every move was huge and amazing. It wasn't. They were just quick, and they were catching Miro off guard, and then finally it came to where everybody knew how it was going to end. So I like the way they did this. I'm glad they didn't do it the Cody Rhodes way. We always hated those matches, right? Every match, everybody that came in, Workhorse, Iron Horse, whatever his name was, like everybody
That's who I was trying to think of was Warhorse.
Warhorse. Everybody had these amazing matches that was like, WrestleMania caliber with Cody for this TNT championship, and it was like, all right, well, everybody's that good. Then how are you that good, Cody?
You're bringing back memories. That fucking Peter Avalon, the librarian, had a 50-50 20-minute match with Cody Rhodes, and where it was just complete everybody selling everybody's moves. And you're right, it just made Cody Rhodes look like complete garbage in that aspect. And Miro did this thing right. He did this thing the best way you possibly could as a monster heel.
100%. And we continue.
We got Tony Schiavone doing some more talking in the back with Christian. And Christian just kind of blabbers on. He's in a good mood, makes a joke I didn't really get or I didn't hear correctly.
Yeah,
and says basically he's here to get a championship, and he is elite. He's not all elite with the elite. He's not elite with the elite. He's elite.
I think what he's trying to make a stab at is he wants the championship, the world championship.
Right. And that just brought me back memories of people throwing this elite term around, how it seems to work and everybody seems to want to get their hands on it. So you have the elite, be the elite, be elite. You got Christian Cage saying he is elite. And if you watch WWE commercials for action figures, they tell you to be elite, and they have an elite line of WWE action figures. This term is getting thrown around a lot. It's a very highly regarded term in the wrestling world right now, which is just kind of silly to me that everybody wants to use the term elite all of a sudden.
Well, I didn't tell you that I wanted to, I was going to go out and make changes in the podcast name here and call it the Elite Podcast, and we're going to be the... Anyways, yeah, you're right.
If
it's
you
just
say
one of
it
those...
enough, people will believe it, right? So if we keep saying we're elite, we'll eventually be number one in the Apple Podcast ratings.
We are the elite, but I feel you. It does. It's one of those things that it just takes away from something when it gets watered down like that. The elite, the elite, the elite, the elite. I'm elite. You're elite. Everybody's elite. You get a car. You get a car. Oprah comes out and everybody's elite. You're elite. I'm elite.
We're all elite. And we get a little piss break match here. I use this opportunity to get up and grab a burrito or two that my son made for dinner very graciously. And but we had the Bunny facing Layla Hirsch in a NWA title eliminator match. This match is pretty clunky. Layla Hirsch can wrestle her ass off. She's fucking tiny. But this was just a typical girls match for the most part. Layla Hirsch ends up winning with an armbar, and she's going after Camille from NWA, the NWA Women's Champion. Camille stands face to face with 4'10" Layla Hirsch, and that is a hell of a sight right there. Camille is a very impressive looking athlete there.
Yeah. I didn't know who the hell Camille was for a second, so it threw me all off.
Yeah, I Googled her after this one because I swear I've never seen her before. But she used to play in the ladies football league. She was a linebacker, and I believe that from her muscle tone and her size.
I missed that whole league. And then don't we go backstage then after this to hear from somebody we haven't heard from in a long time? Did that follow this? No.
What did I miss?
What's yeah, stupid ass.
I am that bitch.
Yeah, what's her name with the blonde hair?
Jade Cargill.
Jade Cargill. She's back. I didn't know she was gone.
Yeah, I forgot she existed. And then all of a sudden, she cut a promo, and apparently it wasn't memorable enough for me to take notes on my Google Drive here. But I know she ended that promo with "I am that bitch."
Yeah, it stunk. Nobody cared. She's left to go do something, and now she's back. And with AEW and the people going off TV for so long, it's easy to forget about somebody. There's, like you said, we'll go 2 weeks with people, 3 weeks with people that are healthy that don't go on TV, let alone hurt, or even hurt storyline hurt. So she's back, but nobody cared, and we move on to the, I believe, main event now.
This is the main event. We've got Malachi Black finally getting his hands on Cody in an official match. Malachi Black's entrance was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It was dark. It was evil. It was satanic. And that mask Malachi Black was wearing was pretty ruthless. And I was digging his entrance, man. It drew me in.
It definitely did. He had some... I liked his entrances in WWE when he raised up out of the little coffin thing, the metal playing, just killing it. I think it was the Sick Fucking Puppies were his were his band that played the song, and I think I like that too. So he's definitely a very creative guy, and he's in the zone with this Malachi Black character thing going down.
Yeah, unfortunately they weren't able to get the Sick Fucking Puppies for his entrance in here, but they did get the Burning Embers to play his entrance. And this match, for what it was, worked out perfectly. For what it was supposed to do, worked out perfectly. Cody was just feeding Malachi Black the entire time. Everything Black did was just sharp, smooth, concise, fast. His strikes were spot on. Everything was just smooth. And I hit my son on the chest there next to me, and I'm like, this is a pro.
Yeah.
Malachi Black in this match puts 90% of the AEW roster to shame when he shows you how clean a wrestling match can be, and you're still working.
Still working. And, Cody did well as also it was him kind of leading it. It wasn't a Cody Rhodes match, which was good. It was a lot of Cody Rhodes defense, not much offense, and but just good selling, long-term selling in the match. The little knee shots in the beginning that carried on through the entire event. So all that was good stuff. It was just I was very surprised, and I did enjoy just kind of how quick it wrapped up.
Right. It went perfect, even with a table spot in there, which seemed a little unnecessary, but ended up working out in the end. But the purpose of this match was, just like you said, Cody was on defense basically the entire time. It got so much sympathy for Cody between him always being on defense and him constantly selling and selling big. The sympathy factor with Cody was right there. And the aura of Aleister Black here, he just comes off as a heartless monster, and that's exactly what we want. So this thing works out perfect. Cody is the poor baby face who's getting the sympathy. Malachi Black's coming off as a heartless monster heel who's just out for blood.
Yeah. Good versus evil, the white suits, the black suits, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. This thing was put together pretty well, and I like the way that it all went down. I thought the pin could have been maybe done a little differently, or I don't know what it was about that he throws. So he throws that kick, right? Connects with Cody's chin, but he just kind of marched around the ring for a minute. Threw me off. But maybe that was the whole point, because nobody saw the ending coming, right?
Right. Well, yeah, to wrap this thing up, it did wrap up pretty quick. Cody's going up to the top rope, and this is where the table spot comes in. Aleister Black kicks him in the face. Cody ends up going off the top turnbuckle and through the timekeeper's table. And this is apparently the one match where countouts matter.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah,
because
I forgot about that.
The storyline. It plays into the storyline, so we gotta make it count. Literally, I guess. Cody went through the timekeeper's table, and he is beaten, battered, and bruised. And just get up, Cody. You can do this. And he barely makes the count, gets into the ring, and he is beaten beyond recognition at this point. Malachi Black hits him with the roundhouse kick to the face, marches around the ring for a moment to kind of soak it all in, pins Cody with one foot on his chest, and that was it. That was slaying the face of AEW right here, and it continues to play on after the pin.
Yeah, I like the commentators either were not all in and told what was going to happen, or they just sold it very well. But they all, what just happened? 1, 2, even the crowd was counting. 1, 2, 3. Like, did this just happen? Like, some of the crowd, obviously, big pop for Malachi, and so, but it threw me. I wish that it would have been I don't know, the pin just was different for me, but maybe that was part of the whole thing. That's just the only part that threw me.
I think it played into the whole thing. It was almost the end of an era. Black was putting an end to Cody Rhodes and basically driving a stake through his heart there. And that's where it played into. Aleister leaves the ring, goes up the ramp, and he's out the gates. At this point, Cody's still selling his ass off. He doesn't even stand up at this point because he's so hurt. And starts cutting a promo, eventually gets up reminiscing about him leaving WWE, about his time starting AEW with Kenny Omega and the Bucks.
We're not another option. We're competition.
And Cody goes on about letting other people eat now, and his face has been everywhere on the company, and it's brought him so much opportunity and everything. And he's just teasing that he's calling it quits. Starts tearing up at one point, starts taking off his boots, and the commentators are in on this part. Well, that's what people do when they're ready to retire. Cody gets one boot off, and what happens, Brian? What happens at this point?
He catches a nice molly whopping with a crutch that they had planted in the ring to help him stand up earlier when his knee was hurt from our buddy Malachi Black.
And that crutch was loaded with potatoes.
Yeah, he came in hot with it, so he didn't take both boots off. The proverbial retirement did not exactly happen, and they're going to stretch this out a little longer, which is good, I think is what it needs to be. From the sounds of it, Cody Rhodes is disappearing for a bit off of TV, and he's going to go work on the Go Big Show Part 2 that they did last year, and so he's going to go tape a bunch of that and disappear off TV and then come back just in time to challenge Malachi Black once again, very similar to how they treated the Brody Lee gimmick last year.
Precisely. Recycled storylines seem to be a thing with AEW already, only barely almost 2 years into this thing. But yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Go Big Show is being filmed here pretty soon. I don't know necessarily how Cody's supposed to come back from this. Malachi Black basically murdered him in this match, but who knows? Maybe enough time off TV will be enough for people to believe in Cody again.
Oh, they'll always believe in Cody. Look, Hogan could leave all the time, and he came back, that music hit, and everybody loved him, and he's the proverbial Hulk Hogan of the AEW, so everybody will love him, and he can come back and do his thing. And that was AEW, man. This whole thing was put together for that match of 2.5 minutes. It really wasn't that short, but it was pretty short.
Basically, we watched a lot of garbage to get to the Miro Shotty Lee match and the Malachi Black Cody Rhodes match. And those two matches almost made this show worth it.
I was going to say, finally AEW, though, did the thing right. They didn't put the hotness up front. They left it for the end, and you remember it being that. You're like, hey, I got a couple decent matches at the end, man. I remember that was a good show, wasn't it? And you go, but if you go back and pick it apart, you're like, ooh, let's unpack it here for a minute. As we got a lot to unpack, as our buddy Conrad would say. So as you go back and unpack all this, you go, no, this was a stink fest held together by 2 decent matches and good storytelling.
Right. So we went off air with Malachi Black standing in the ring. It's going to take me a minute to adjust on that. Just standing in the ring with Cody's boot in his hand. And that's the face we get as we fade to black. And that's a wrap on AEW this week, Brian.
That is that. And that's a wrap on the podcast as we bring this thing home. Make sure you guys check out all of our social media. Share the podcast with a friend. Like, review. Get on YouTube. Subscribe. Share it. Hit the little notification bell so you know when we go live. We tape these things live on Thursdays. Go out to the public on Fridays at noon. They drop to your podcast platform of choice. They're on all of them, on Spotify, on iTunes. You're listening to us now. You know that. But leave a review, leave a rating, and let's talk some pro wrestling. Eric, what do you have to say to us?
I've only got one last thing to say to you and the audience tonight, and that is hooty hoo, we out the gates.